Okay, everybody, we're going to be dividing polynomials by something called synthetic division. Okay, we're going to stretch our thinking caps a little bit on this one. This will be very new to some of you. I don't think you've ever done this before, but for a lot of you, you'll remember this from Algebra 2. So if you've never been in Algebra 2, pay very close attention. Because what's going to happen today, when we're talking about dividing by synthetic division, we want to take a polynomial, and what we're going to do is actually dividing polynomials is kind of a way of breaking them down, making them smaller. So what we want to try to do is I'm going to go back to taking a polynomial and dividing it by a monomial, and I want to show you what happens. Okay, so here's example 1. We're going to take 3x squared plus 2x squared plus 4x plus 12, and we're going to just simply see what happens when we divide it by x. Okay, so this is called a cubic polynomial, and I'm going to do this the way I did it in the last section. I'm going to take 4x cubed, and I'm going to divide it by x, plus 8x squared and divided by x, plus 4x and divided by x, and plus 12 and divided by x. Okay, so here's what happens. We're going to do the same thing we did in the last section. I know that there's a 1 here. Okay. And again, we're going to take the smaller one, which would be this one, and go up here and subtract. So that's going to give you 4x squared. Plus, I'm going to take this one and go up here and subtract 1. It's going to give you 8x. And I'm going to realize that both of these cancel, and I'm going to get 4 plus 12 over x. Now we want to take a look at this for a second and come here and compare the answers. Notice the answer. Okay, the answer is 1 less than each of those exponents up top. Okay, your answer is 1 less than exponents on the original polynomial. Okay, notice it's going to be 4x squared, so it goes in descending order. It goes 2, 1, that disappeared, and this down here at the end is called the remainder. Okay, so it's breaking it down by one exponent at a time, which makes sense. If you take something and divide it, it's going to get smaller. And in this particular one, it's getting smaller by 1 degree. And it's in descending order. And that's what it means to divide a polynomial. We want to break it down, and when we divide, you're going to see that these are going to be in order, and they're going to descend. And they're always going to be 1 less. Okay, so the big thing I want to do today is now we're going to start dividing by a binomial. Okay, let's review what a binomial is. Well, a binomial is a polynomial with 2 terms. A binomial is a polynomial with 2 terms. Okay, examples of binomials. Yeah, let me just give you a few. For instance, x plus 2 is a binomial. Okay, 3x plus 4 is a binomial. X minus 5 is a binomial. It's 2 terms linked together. And that is what we're going to be dividing by today. So here's what we're going to look at. Okay, so these are binomials, and this is what we're going to divide by. So here's example, well, actually, here's what we're going to be doing shortly. We're going to be dividing by a binomial. So now we're going to take a polynomial, but notice what's happening. We're going to be dividing by x plus 1. Well, it's not like the first section. The rules of the game are going to change a little bit here. So we're going to back up, and I'm going to show you the steps involved and how to quickly divide these. First of all, a quicker way to divide these is called synthetic division. What is synthetic division? It's a quick way to break down, and what I mean break down is to divide a polynomial by a linear binomial. Now, I'll be honest, y'all, in financial algebra, don't worry about what linear is. I'll explain that in a second, okay? But basically what synthetic is, it's a way of division, but it's faster than something that we would normally do in an Algebra 2 class called long division. So I'm going to show you a quick way to take a polynomial and break it down. So I'm going to kind of go old school and go really back. Do you remember how to do long division? Remember how we had to do 12 divided by something like 145? I know it's been a long time. I know you guys like to take out that calculator. So I'm going to review those steps on how to do that. Okay? So if you remember from probably middle school, your middle school teacher probably told you to take this 2-digit number, hide all the other numbers, and see if it'll fit into the first number. Well, we know 12 won't fit into 1, so we're going to hold a placeholder. You can either put an X or a 0. Then we're going to take 12 and see how many times it fits into 14. Well, we know that it fits once, right? And then we're going to subtract 12, which is going to give us 2. And we're going to bring down the next number, which is 5. Okay, and I like to put an arrow. And then I'm going to see how many times 12 goes in here. 25, well, that's about 2. That's 24. Then we're going to subtract again, and we're going to get 1. And if you remember in middle school, what did we call that? We called that the remainder. And what we would do is we would go up here and go plus the remainder over what we divided by. Remember long division? I'm sure you didn't like it, but that's long division. So that's kind of what we're going to do with the polynomials and dividing by a binomial. Okay, so here we go. All right, I got some rules. I'm going to put each one up here so you can look at it. And then I have a cool little worksheet that I'm going to upload for you guys. Okay, so the rules for dividing using synthetic division are: first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the polynomial, and it must be in descending order from the highest exponent to the lowest exponent. Descending order. And this is what I mean by descending order. Okay, it has to be 3x to the 4th, 2x cubed plus 4x squared plus 5x to the 1st. Remember, there's an understood 1 there, minus 10. So that's the first thing we have to do. We got to put them in order. Second, well, what gets in the way are all these x's. So the second thing we're going to do, and we'll show you, is, well, what if one of these is missing? Well, it's really important in division to hold place value. So if one of these were missing, we use a placeholder. So the second thing is, when you put it in descending order, if somebody's not there, because you have to get all the way down there to the number, including that number, we're just going to use what we call a placeholder. And that placeholder is going to be the number 0. Okay, now here's what I mean. So let's say we had 3x to the 4th plus 4x squared plus 5x minus 10. Well, up here, the 2x cubed is missing. It's not really going in descending order. So if we were going to write this in standard form with a placeholder, we would put that 0x to the 3rd. Not going to change anything, but we're going to need that placeholder. Okay, so that's the second thing we got to do. So if something's missing, you're going to use a 0 as a placeholder. Okay, third thing you're going to do is you're going to write only the coefficients of the terms, including any placeholders in descending order. In other words, we're just going to write the coefficients. These are coefficients. It's the numbers, and that is also a number. Okay? So we're not going to deal with the x's. We're only going to deal with the numbers, and we're going to put those in descending order. Fourth step is to take the opposite of the binomial term. Okay, and I'm going to show you what I mean by the opposite of the binomial term and place it on the outside. All right. Then you're going to bring down the first term. Then you're going to multiply the first number by the outside number and place it under, hold on, I'm going to leave it there because I know you guys are going to want to maybe copy this down, but I have something for you so that you can probably look at the steps a little bit shorter. So you're going to put it on the outside number and place it under that second number, and then you're going to add. Start all over until you get to the end number, and that will be your remainder. Okay, so what does all that mean, Miss Mitchell? Well, give me a second, okay? Give me a second. I will show you. Okay. I have this nice little cheat sheet that I'm going to load as a PDF in your folder, okay? So if you want to cut it and paste it in your notes or have it handy, this will help explain what I'm about to do, okay? And again, here are those steps, but they're written just a little quicker and shorter. Quicker and shorter. So I'll give you guys this PDF. Okay, so I think we're ready to try one. Okay. So I have a polynomial, and this time I'm dividing it by the binomial of x plus 1. So the first thing we want to do is start with the polynomial itself. And we want to make sure that it is in descending order. It goes x squared, x to the first, and then we have that n number. Now, this is where the division gets kind of interesting. A long time ago, some math geniuses decided that, well, we want to divide this pretty quickly. We want to break this down by x plus 1. So that means it's got to get smaller. Remember I told you that if you divide by x, this is going to get smaller? And it will. So the first thing we want to know is make sure we know is that the coefficient in front of this guy is 1. And I told you we're going to write the coefficients, including this number, down without the x's. So it's going to look like this: 1, 6, 3. 1, 6, 3. Then we're going to do something really strange. This division sign, unlike long division, we're going to flip it and make a box. Okay? We're going to flip it and make a box. That's your division sign. Believe it or not, that's your division. That's your division sign. That tells me I'm dividing. It's a genius way. Okay, Now we're going to draw a straight line under here because I'm going to need that. Okay, the binomial. Okay, remember that binomial up here? That x plus 1? Okay, well again, we're not interested in the x. We're interested in the x plus 1. And in there, I said take the opposite of the binomial. Well, the opposite of 1 is -1, and that's what's going to go in the corner of that box. So when this says +1, we're going to put -1. Okay. Are you guys with me so far? So we're going to take these three numbers, get rid of the x's, put them in descending order. No need for a placeholder. I'm going to put the opposite of the binomial inside my division box. The next step in division is to multiply and then add. So I'm going to drop that first number. I told you to bring down the first number, and we're going to put it down here. Now we want to multiply, because that's what we do in division. We start multiplying. So I'm going to go -1 times 1. Well, -1 times 1 is -1. Now what do we do after we multiply? We're going to add. Okay? So we're going to take 6 plus -1, and that's going to give you 5. Then we start all over again. We're going to go back to multiplying. We're going to go back up here, and we're going to take -1, and we're going to multiply it by 5, which is going to give us -5. And then we're going to add again. And -5 plus 3 is -2. That number on the end is called your remainder. Just like in long division, that's my remainder. Now, what does the 1 and the 5 mean? Okay, back up. Okay, so these are the coefficients of the answer. Okay, let's think about that. That's the remainder. That's the coefficients of my answer. Now remember, I told you that the answer will go in descending order. If we're dividing by one of these into one of those, that means there's one less. So that 1 becomes x, which means if it's the x term, the next number would be my number. So what do we get? We get x plus 5, and our remainder is -2 over what we divided by, which was x plus 1. Okay, if you've never seen this before, just take a second, think about it. Let's go back. Our objective was to take this and make it smaller. Take this, divide it by x plus 1, and make it smaller. It should be 1 less than this. So again, synthetic division gets rid of the x's. And we took only the numbers and put them in the top row. And we took the opposite of the binomial, put it in our little division box. Okay? Then every single time we're going to go back to that number in the box and we're going to multiply it. And it starts by bringing the very first number down. And you're going to multiply, and you're going to put it under the second number, and then you're going to add those up, and then you're going to multiply again, put that answer under the next number, add them up, and you're going to keep going until you get to the end. And when you get to the end, that's your remainder. These coefficients are the answers to what goes in front of x. and then that will be the remainder. Now, sometimes it might be 0. Okay, let's do another one. You're all like, what just happened? It's not that bad. What just happened, Miss Mitchell? Okay, 2x cubed minus 7x squared minus x minus 12. And we're going to divide that by x minus 4. Okay, so we're starting with this. I'm going to check to make sure everybody is in descending order, and it is. X to the third, x to the second, x to the first, minus 12. So we're going to set up our little division problem by putting our division sign. Okay, and we're going to put down all those coefficients. Now remember, that's a 1. Okay. Then I'm going to give myself some space. And then I'm going to take the opposite of that binomial. So it says minus 4, which means 4 positive is what I want to put in my box. Okay, I'm going to draw an arrow to bring the first number down. And I'm going to start to multiply. Okay, we're going to start to multiply. So 4 times 2 is 8. It's going to go under the second number, and then you're going to add those. Well, that's going to give you 1. 4 times 1 is 4, and it goes under the next number. And then you're going to add these up. And you're going to get 3. And you're going to go 4 times 3, which is 12, which means you get 0. And again, that means at the end here is your remainder. That's called the remainder. It means I get nothing. Okay, so we're going to write what's left. Now remember, we took something to the third degree and we divided it by 1. Well, if we do that, it should be smaller. It's going to be 1 smaller than 3. So that means we get 2x squared plus 1x. And the only thing left is that number, 3. And that's what's called your leftover polynomial. Okay. Let me slide that down. And that's what happened. Went from a cubic to a square. Another one. Okay. Next one. Okay. I'm going to realize it goes 3, 2, 1 again. There's that understood 1. And I'm dividing by x plus 2. Okay, so I'm going to set up my box, my division box, and I'm just going to write the numbers 2, 3, -3, -2. Then I'm going to leave a little space. And again, I'm going to go over here, and this is plus 2, but we want the opposite of that in my box. So I want -2. So I'm going to put -2 in my box. And then I'm going to bring this first number down. And I'm going to start to multiply again. Okay, so -2 times 2 is -4. And I'm going to add these up. That's going to give you -1. And I'm going to start with -2, multiply by -1, which is +2. Oh, that's a terrible 2. Sorry. Then I'm going to add those up and get -1. Then I'm going to take -2, multiply it by -1 to get +2. And there's my remainder. It's 0. That guy in the end is always your R, your remainder. So again, I took a cubic and I divided it by 1, so it's going to get 1 time smaller. So we're going to write our answer as 2x squared minus 1x minus 1. Final answer. Okay, we're almost done. We got one more example. Okay, so there we go. Opposite of positive 2 was negative 2. Goes in the box. There's the coefficients. Bring down the first number, multiply and add. Multiply and add, and multiply and add. Okay, last example, example 7. Okay, I'm going to notice that it starts out 4x to the third, but I'm missing x squared. And then it goes x plus 8, and I'm dividing by x minus 1. So that means I need a placeholder. I have to put something in between my 4 and my negative 7, and that's that 0. So let's start our little division. We're going to put our division sign. I'm going to put 4 in between these two. I'm going to put 0. That's my placeholder. Negative 7 and 8. And then I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to bring down that first number, which is 4. And I'm going to go over here. And I know the opposite of that negative is plus 1. So I'm going to put 1 in my box. Okay, start to multiply. We're going to do 1 times 4, which is 4. Then we're going to add those up to get 4. Then we're going to do 1 times 4, which is 4. But now I'm going to add these two up to get negative 3. Then I'm going to do 1 times negative 3 to get negative 3. And I'm going to add those up, which is going to give me a remainder of 5. Okay, now if you remember, again, this is a 3. We divided it by 1. That means this first term is 4x squared plus 4x going down minus 3. And we're going to write our remainder as positive 5 over what we divided by, which is x minus 1. Okay, brain bomb, right? But it's actually pretty easy. Okay, well, I'm going to give you a chance to review the first kind we did and do a few of these. And if you need help, come to a conference.